You're listening to Broncos for Breakfast with Nick Kendell and Scott Kennedy. Head on over to milehighhuddle.com for all things Broncos. Good morning, Broncos country.
All right, and give me 1 second while I pull it up on the Facebook group as well, because we want to say hello to our fine Facebook listeners, followers, supporters, etc.
Welcome to the YouTubers. I think they get to come in first. So
YouTube and Twitch and Periscope. We obviously Periscope every once in a while. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Broncos for Breakfast in this fine Tuesday morning, 7 o'clock here in Pacific time, 8 o'clock in Mountain time, and in Eastern time. God, 10 o'clock?
10 a.m.
Man, happy afternoon, I guess.
Almost 10 a.m. We get done here, I'm ready for lunch. So we can go right. We can go right into Broncos for lunch if I stay on and my East Coasters, and shoot, we've got enough Euro Bronco fans that they're ready for dinner.
Yeah, maybe some Broncos for brunch. Maybe we can get some mimosas going, some more coffee, maybe a little bit of a Jameson in the coffee as well, a little Irish coffee action. But good morning, everybody. Like I said, this is Broncos for Breakfast. We hope everybody is enjoying it. And obviously, Chad does not have the Broncos for Breakfast up here, but there it is. Awesome. Good morning. Still trying to get it together. I've just completed a 37-mile backpacking trip, 3 days, 2 nights. I'm feeling it, but I'm happy to be alive, happy to be here. Guys can follow us on Twitter at Mile High Huddle. Also support us on Facebook, facebook.com /Mile High Huddle. If you guys are joining us on YouTube today, the most important thing you can do to support us and help us continue to bring you these morning shows, subscribe, like, and share. Obviously, the super chats help a lot, but if you can subscribe to the Mile High Huddle Facebook or YouTube page, that can help a lot. Also, make sure you subscribe to Scott's YouTube page, where he has everything pertaining to football, not just the Broncos, but hopefully we can give him. I mean, he's a businessman, right? He wants, if there's demand for Broncos content, he will bring us Broncos content.
Hey, we're getting close. We're up to 750 on subscribers. I did a podcast on a Friday night, a video pass with the Buffalo Bills talking about my boy Spencer Brown. Mm-hmm. And I picked up 80 subscribers over the weekend. So that was good. Wow. And that's adding on top of what y'all have done. So as soon as we get close, as soon as we get to 1,000, it's a big help. It'll be a big help to me.
Yeah, guys, go over there and do that. Do the call of action. Go subscribe to Scott's YouTube page and follow us on Twitter.
Guys trolling me already. Here we go. Lester won that one. This is the one today is the one I'm concerned with.
Well, I mean, if you couldn't, got to be able to take it sometimes. If you're a sports fan, I dish it out plenty, so I definitely get it.
Atlanta fans, we're used to being put down. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah, no, it's well, man, what was the game a few years ago? The Atlanta Cardinal game where the Cardinals scored like 10 runs in the first inning. It was like Game 5 of the NLDS or something.
Yeah, it was. That's, like I said, we get a bad rap as sports fans. I'm like, it's not our fault. It really isn't. It's not our fault that we've had bad franchises. Not that the Braves are a bad franchise, but come October, we typically watch college football instead of the Braves kick the ball around and choke away a good season. But with baseball, we've talked about this. What's it worth? When we're talking about, would you rather have, a one and done type of season? Let's go for it, but then we're going to be 6-10 and rebuilding the next 3 years. Or, would you rather be 13-3 several years in a row? And to me, football is different. I'd rather win that one with football. I can live through, but with baseball, 162 games, I want to watch a good team, every year. And if I need to turn away from a 7-game series in October, fine. The baseball, 162 games, to me is more important to watch good baseball than going 79-83, eking into the playoffs through the charity system that's now Major League Baseball playoffs, going on a run and winning a World Series. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd take it, but that's 6 months of bad baseball. I'd rather watch 6 months of good baseball.
Yeah, for sure. And let's get into the comment section here. We got George coming in here early. I mean, actually an hour early. What a surprise. Well, George, 8 o'clock Mountain. Put that in the clock. We'll be back Thursday. Got Jason O'Neill also as well. How you doing, Jason? Delaying the action. Hope the hike was an exhilarating one, Nick. I had a lot of fun. I'm exhausted, but a lot of fun. A couple little sketchy parts where after crossing, I'd be like, my mom would be pretty upset with me right now, but that's okay. She doesn't need to know unless she's listening right now. Yeah,
I thought you were married.
I am married. I know, but the wife would be like, oh, you can do it. The mom, no matter what, she's
good. All right, we're all right then.
Yeah. Scott also saying good morning. Scott working both sides here. Frankie saying good morning. Good morning to you, Frankie. How you doing? Brent Weber, good morning, fellas in Broncos country. Gloomy rainy day here in Nebraska. I personally love it. Oh, we got Buenos Dias, Broncos country. Robert, let us know where you're coming in from. Ann Rivera, one of my favorites. Good morning, Nick and Scott and Broncos country. Peter saying Nick had an amazing trip. That's for sure. I've been putting some on Twitter, so if you guys have seen it, Peter giving you a hard time. Congrats to Leicester. Jeremy coming in here.
Leicester, good Lord. You're not allowed to talk soccer anymore.
Nope. I pronounce it for me.
Leicester.
Well, that's it for me. That's I can pronounce Chelsea. Peter Middleton saying I've subscribed. We got Swing McLeod saying morning, guys. Jamal Killings, good morning. We need Brittany Bolin to take ownership. And Dakota Whitehouse in here saying hello, Broncos country. Good morning to you. Also, guys, I'm going to drop in the comment section right now Scott's sub link to everybody in there. Nick Fury also coming in here. Good evening from the Philippines. All right. Coming across from way across the pond, across multiple ponds. God. But let's get into it, guys. Broncos for breakfast. The thing, obviously, we're starting to get to the slow time of year. But the Broncos did make a interesting move yesterday. Adam Schefter putting it out there. The Broncos are hiring Kelly Kleine as the executive director of football operations / special advisor to the general manager. Kleine, who worked for George Paton with the Vikings, will have scouting duties and manage several departments. Kleine is believed to be the highest ranking female scouting executive ever with an NFL team. So Broncos helping, break some glass ceilings here, hiring a female as the highest in this position in NFL history. And it's coming to the times. I mean, it was a matter of when, not if, but it is cool to see the Broncos do it first. And, she wouldn't be here, obviously, if she didn't have the credentials. The Broncos, this is such a competitive industry where there's not really charity cases or anything like that, right? Like she deserves this. I'm really excited to see what she can do. And maybe this is a general manager in the future as well.
Well, here's what's impressing me. And frankly, the fact that she is a woman and where she gets hired gets a lot of press. And
yeah,
this might be middle-aged white guy talking here, but I don't think we'll have true equality until everybody has the same reaction that I do, which is I don't care. I don't care that she's a woman. I don't care.
Yeah.
Can she do the job? What's more impressive to me that she's 30.
Yeah.
30 that she's doing this at 30 years old. So, reading through her sheet coming through, she was an intern with the Minnesota Vikings in 2012. So this is a woman who has been raised on professional football, her entire semi-professional career all the way to 30. So she's got roughly 10 years with the Minnesota Vikings, working her way up step by step by step by step. And she's got a decade of experience despite the fact that she's 30 years old. And 30, I mean, that to me is what is the most impressive part of her resume when you're looking at what she's done. So looking forward to seeing what she brings to the table. I know that Bronco fans have been really happy with what George Paton has done thus far. Honeymoon period. But thus far, I think everybody's been pretty happy with the moves that the Broncos have made. One of the moves that has been made since we last talked was the Juwan James issue. Now we did a full podcast on what's going to happen with him, and the Broncos they ended up being ruthless. They cut him. We felt that listening to Nick and having the the veteran backing, basically, that he wasn't necessarily part of the team, that they could be able to do this. So, to me, that's a big win. Sorry, Juwan, but that's a big win for the Broncos.
Yeah, the Broncos were able to move on from him, and the amount of noise or lack thereof from the Broncos teammates should be deafening. It stinks for him, but I think if anybody should be mad about this, obviously you have people like some AFC West fans, rival fans, chastising the Broncos because they're able to get out of a bad contract because of this. And, if this was the Raiders, I wouldn't want them to be out of the contract, you made the bed, go lay in it. But the Broncos getting out here due to, I would say, unfortunate circumstances. You'd rather have Juwan James healthy and playing. But here we are. But the Broncos players, they didn't really jump out and take a big issue with it. They're taking more issue, and this is just across the league with the NFLPA. So while the Broncos did release James, and I think they're waiting till June 1st to make it official to cut the salary dead cap. Somebody can correct me in the comments if I'm incorrect there. The brain is still trying to catch up. I haven't had coffee for a few days. But that's my understanding. But it will be really interesting to see what happens here. I think this isn't over. This is going to be drawn out. This is going to be in the courts. But the Broncos have made some moves as well, bringing in Bobby Massey, bringing in Cameron Fleming. Hopefully, one of those guys can be better than what they had last year, the last few seasons. We'll see. But it's not a bad move for the Broncos. They save some cash. They bring in 2 guys to compete for that position and let the best guy win it. And on top of that, you get some depth at the tackle position. So, like I said, I'd rather have a healthy James, but it is what it is. And the Broncos pivoted, and I'm about as happy as I could be given the situation.
Yeah, and going back to, I kind of got out of talking about Kelly Kleine a little too quick. I didn't necessarily mean to. And just reading some of the comments, and some of her duties, it's not just scouting. Being in charge of the video department is one thing, and that's huge. You know how much these guys watch film, not just the coaches, but the players and the breakdown. So owning that entire process, we know what a digital world it is. Yeah. So being in charge of that, she'll have as big of impact there as she will in the scouting department, because that is scouting. The film breakdowns is scouting. So she's come in with a lot on her plate. And like I said, having been spent the last 10 years, she's been not born to football, but certainly raised as an NFL exec. So again, I'm looking forward to seeing what she does with the Broncos.
Yeah, and there's some awesome quotes from Rick Spielman, her former boss of the Vikings, talking about her. Like, quote, she's a critical part of everything we do. Everything revolves around her in the office. On the college side, she makes sure everything is ready for our meetings. She runs the draft board. She does a lot of things and directs a lot of traffic. We probably couldn't function without her in the room. So also Spielman saying, in our eyes, it's not about being a man or a woman or what religion or race you are. It's who is the most qualified regardless. I know she's going to get things done and in the right way. So there is a lot of praise for her. And, it's good press for the Broncos. There's a comment here from Peter. Yep. Firstly, she deserves it. Yes, but it's also positive press for the Broncos. And a great point here from Peter, inspires our daughters to do the same. And Peter actually had a super from last Thursday that we did not actually get to. So I want to read it right here, right now. The Broncos have a lot of players with a lot to prove, either due to being injured last year and or in a contract year. Do you see any surprise cuts or trades and a surprise contract extension? So any surprise moves from the Broncos that could come down the tracks? Well, the Deshaun Hamilton one tore his ACL, so that's kind of in limbo. At least I've been without service for 3 days, so that's the last I saw. And also like Royce Freeman, those wouldn't be surprising at all. But I think somebody who could be a surprise release, which I'm not advocating for, but I just think the way the contract is set up, the way the position is set up for the Broncos right now, it's Bryce Callahan. He's played extremely well last year when he was healthy, but that's the thing. He has not been healthy. He's on the wrong side of 30, and the Broncos invested heavily in the cornerback position this season. So you could go out with 3 starting cornerbacks of Surtain, Darby, and Fuller and be fine. You can just kick Darby to slot, honestly, in this scheme. Bryce Callahan could save you nearly $8 million. I mean, it's something you have to think about. That's the one that sticks out to me, where obviously you would hate to lose him because he was so good last year. But that money, that could make a difference elsewhere, or you could roll it over. You're just deep enough at cornerback. Maybe you want to go with the depth given what happened last year. But Callahan's the one who sticks out as a surprise cut.
Well, and if you look at some of the guys, and I like this sportrack.com. They break down everything right there. So I just went in there, and so you look at the number 2 guy on salary is Graham Glasgow, a guard. What? Yeah, that's odd. And it's not that high, but he's in his second year of his deal now. So normally you'd look at that and go, that dude's gone, but no, not in his second year. Maybe next year, next year you want to talk about doing some reshuffling. That I would be nervous if I was him on that contract, but that's why you get your signing bonuses. That's why you get that stuff. You get that stuff guaranteed. Melvin Gordon, he's a free agent next year. So just looking at guys that are coming off, the dead cap hit would be significant. So, obviously you're not going to, but that's what I start doing is and that's what execs are going to do. They're looking at a spreadsheet, and where can we, how effective are these guys? So, those guys aren't going anywhere, but they don't have to. We're talking $25 million under the salary cap right now. I'm used to looking at those numbers and seeing three guys with cap hits in the 20s. The highest guy here is Von Miller at 22, and the next is Graham Glasgow, a guard, which is odd. That there's no quarterback in there, but that's why you have so much flexibility, and maybe why the Broncos need a quarterback.
Yeah, and with Glasgow, shout out to him for coming on to one of the Huddle Up podcasts here in the last month, making a guest appearance on the show. But he's somebody who I think his job is safe this year, but the Broncos have invested pretty darn heavily on that interior offensive line over the last few seasons, investing in Lloyd Cushenberry, investing in obviously the gut, Quinn Miners as well. They have Dalton and Reisner in there. So that's a position where Glasgow, I think, will be here this year. Oh, and also Natane Moody, who the Broncos took in the 6th round last year, but a lot of people thought he would go much higher. It's just the injury concerns. So that's some pretty good depth on the interior. You have 5 guys there that could feasibly be okay starters to plus starters.
The gut.
The gut. Yep. No, if you've seen the pictures, it's pretty, this is the peak male body. You may not like it, but it is what it is. But he's Glasgow will be probably gone after this year. I think he does have a 3rd year on his contract. But he's going to have to bring it. He's really going to have to earn that spot, because if you can save some money and play younger guys, that's the league, right? I think people need to start kind of thinking about football even more like college, like where your recruiters go out there and they're recruiting a guy 1 year, but you best believe they're recruiting your replacement the next year. There's just that much turnover.
And Nick, looking at this number, he's got 2 years left on his deal, but his dead cap hit goes from 18 to 6 next year. And after June, that probably goes down to 3. So, it would be feasible, when you're going to pay a guard $9 million, or are you going to eat $3 million? Depends. It could be up to him. $9 million for a really, really good offensive lineman isn't out of the question. That's affordable. If the guy plays up to that number, then his contract, the good news for him is his contract isn't so backloaded. You see these contracts, he signed for 5 years, $80 million. Dude, tell me how much is in the last 3 years. That's all I care about, because that's how much he's not going to get. But this one, his contract, a lot of it was guaranteed and upfront. Not upfront, but at least spread out evenly, to the point where he won't be an obvious cap casualty if he's playing well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Jeremy comes in with a good point here. The Broncos were down to their 6th and 7th corners last year. I'd wait on Callahan unless you need to free up money for Rodgers. And I don't disagree with you. Also, I think Surtain is going to come in and play pretty well quickly. But I mean, we saw last year, Jeffrey Okudah, the number 3 overall pick, struggled immensely. CJ Henderson, the 9th overall pick, struggled immensely. Sometimes it takes a cornerback a little bit of time to get out there. So if you don't want to, baptism by fire, Patrick Surtain, and kind of have him be more of a matchup player where he can do some stuff against like big slots, some safety stuff, some boundary corner stuff, move him around, especially against the tight ends that like to flex out in the AFC West. Maybe that's something you look to do there, and you don't rely on him too much. Although from a top 10 pick, you do kind of want to have him out there. So we'll see. And it also does free up money potentially for Rodgers. Jeremy makes a good point here, but getting back to Peter's super that they're getting back to, the Broncos also, he said surprise extensions. I don't think these would be surprise extensions, but coming down the tracks, you're talking about Glasgow being the 2nd highest paid guy. That is for a short period, because Cortland Sutton and Bradley Chubb are about to get paid. And even with Cortland Sutton coming off the ACL and Bradley Chubb with 2 ACLs in his career, both those guys have a chance to be top 10 players at their position in the league. They're young. They're entering like second contract players. They're going to get paid. They are going to get paid. So that's maybe some money that you're looking for as well. It's not just what they're going to be against the cap. It's that signing bonus up front. If you can save some money off the top by moving on from Callahan to pay that signing bonus, then that's something you may have to consider, or you can consider. I guess you don't have to, but if you want to save a little bit of money so you can do that and have a little bit more room, you feeling comfortable in the cornerback room, you can do that.
So I've left my door open again, and since I'm the only one here.
Oh, okay.
Guess who's back?
Always.
Say hello, Ninja.
This is I like Ninja. The white spot.
He was named by my daughter, and he's kind of all over the place this morning. So I'm going to put him down. Ugh. He's Sounds about like 17 pounds. He's a lot of cat, and he's being kind of a nuisance this morning. So that's Ninja.
Yeah, that's all. Hello, Ninja. Sometime I'll have to bring Queso. That's my wife's number 1.
Queso, I love that name.
Yeah, he is. He's a big ball of fluff. We got Richard coming in here. I'm not going to try to pronounce your last name, but if you want to get at us in the comments, please do. He said, good morning from Germany. Great show and go Broncos. Well, guten Tag to you, Richard. Let us know where about in Germany you are. I love Germany. I've been to Munich and Berlin and Dresden, and I want to get back out there. I would really love to do an Oktoberfest for obvious reasons, but it is what it is. Nathan saying, what up, Nick and Scott? We got a good question here from Kareem. Which lesser-known player makes a jump in either play or percentage of snaps? So this is a good one. I guess, how lesser are we talking here, right? Like, Kareem, that's a good question. Like, if you're listening to the show, odds are you know the Broncos pretty darn deep. But one position that I am obviously interested in would be Justin Strnad. Obviously, the Broncos did not invest super early and heavily in the linebacker position. You have Alexander Johnson, you have Josie Jewell, but both those guys are playing in contract years, and we don't know where Baron Browning's going to play yet. Is he going to play Will? Is he going to play Sam, like more of an edge rusher? We don't know. So I think Strnad, you should expect to see him get a good chunk of snaps this year to see if he can hang, right? Like, the Broncos are going to get Strnad out there this year because they need to see if he is a potential viable replacement, not only in 2021, but 2022 for one of Johnson/Jewell. So I'd see him jump a bit. Another one that could surprise is, just off the top of my head, I think maybe people are sleeping a little bit on Tyree Cleveland. I thought he flashed last year. The Broncos wide receiver room is deep, but wide receivers working with Zach Azani, he could take a second year jump. You could have an injury to one of the wide receivers above him. And obviously everyone's talking about Seth Williams right now, but I would not completely shut the door on Tyree Cleveland as well. He brings good special teams ability, and I was pretty impressed with what he showed last year. So those are two names that stand out for me.
Now, not a lesser name, but how about a guy you're talking about that jump, Jerry Jeudy. How about what he can do in a second year? Typically wide receivers, there's been studies done that it's usually year 3 on the wide receivers that they really make that next leap. Now they're coming out of college more and more ready to play. So you can expect an earlier impact, but 52 catches, 856 yards and 3 touchdowns. That should get better, right? Like, significantly.
Yeah. I would hope so. Mm-hmm. I would hope so. And Peter coming in here saying it's nice not to talk about the left tackle for once. Gosh, isn't that great? Maybe, hopefully a year from now, we won't be talking about the quarterback as much either. That seems to be the one. We haven't even mentioned his name yet. I know that's apparently I got onto Twitter and things have been a little toxic in Broncos country in regards to the quarterback stuff. So I was in pure bliss out in the wilderness, not having to deal with that kind of stuff. We got Kyle Wielden coming in here saying, good morning, gentlemen. Well, Kyle, thank you so much for the $10 super, keeping on the lights in here, and a special good morning to you specifically for helping us, and hopefully we can help you. Hit us with a question as well if you have any. We would love that. So do you have any other deep sleepers for the Broncos right now off the top? I mean, obviously you kind of have a scouting perspective of this team in general, but not so much the deep.
For me, it's the draft right now. As I don't look at looked at the roster nearly as well as you have.
Yeah.
So I've already, anybody that's new, you've already heard me talk about Seth Williams a lot. As far as the guy that I think can really outplay his draft position. He's a first, second round physical talent. For some reason, for one reason or another, was just always on the cusp of breaking through, but he still finished, I think, like the 4th all-time leading receiver in Auburn history.
Yeah.
And they've had a few good ones. Getting back to that toxicity comment, that goes with the offseason. People start getting antsy and they start turning on each other until you've got a common enemy. Once you've got someone else on the schedule or someone else coming in and making, it's like come around June, July, you start thinking, man, we need football season. We got to get the Raiders on the schedule. We got to have someone else that we can all hate. We need a common enemy. So I appreciate this crew in here. I read through the comments all the time. That's why my head's facing this way. There's good conversation. This is a good community we've got in the morning. So maybe people get a little meaner in the evening. I don't know, but I appreciate the commentary that goes back and forth on Broncos for breakfast.
Yeah, absolutely. And with everybody in here, the good commentary. If you guys are joining us on Facebook, make sure to click those thumbs up. I see we got 11 in the house. If we could get that number juiced a little bit more, we'd appreciate it. We got Muhammad in the house coming in. Good morning. Good morning to you, Muhammad. How you doing? Charlie Beagle's also in the house. I wanted to give Charlie a shout out, and Bob Skinner. Those are great guys in the comment section. Always appreciate what they have to say. We got Trent Asher coming in saying, good morning, Nick and Scott. Looking for a bounce back year from Cortland Sutton, hoping for an injury-free year. And Nelson also getting in here. Good morning, Zach and Scott. Greetings from Virginia. And Muhammad. with the super sticker. Muhammad, we do not have a producer back here that can pull that up, but you can let us know what it is in the comment, and maybe I'll act it out. If it's one of those peach guys showing his booty with the headband, I don't know what I'm going to do for you, but I got to do something. So Benjamin Flores coming in here as well. Good morning. So I want to get to this. Obviously, you're an outsider when it comes to the Broncos country. What are your thoughts on Courtland Sutton in general? Obviously, he missed last season. He's had, let's just call it what it is, dreadful quarterback play. And wide receiver is one of those positions where unless you're Calvin Johnson or, Randy Moss, even though like we saw Randy Moss difference between Oakland and New England, what a difference that made. But Courtland Sutton coming into year 4, man, I will tell you, he's a surprising player. And he's one of those guys that proves that, that 40-yard dash, it's great, but there are other ways to win as a wide receiver. And I think he could be a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL this year. I really think he is that talented.
We've talked about, when we're talking about looking at players, what's my bias among wide receivers? Size. I like the big receivers. They're always open. You can throw them open. Getting separation is good, but they don't always call holding, especially if you're watching the Kansas City Chiefs play defense. So they don't always call holding. When they do, the Chiefs were in trouble. But a big guy is always open. You can throw him open. One shoulder, the other shoulder higher, he can elevate. So you're talking 6'4", 215 at least. So hopefully, coming back, so he had a huge 2019, 72 catches, 1,100 yards, bunch of touchdowns. Yeah, he's going to be good to have back if he can come back healthy.
Yeah, catching balls from Joe Flacco, Brandon Allen, and Drew Lock and out there and just making incredible plays. I think it was Kyle Krabs of the Draft Network who compared his profile and skill set to Terrell Owens, who also didn't, absolute amazing 40, but he was just so big and long and strong and sudden and great ball skills in the air. So,
the thing about Terrell Owens is whatever he ran at 22 years old, he was still running it at 33 years old.
Yeah.
So he learned all of those things over the course of the 10 years and probably got physically stronger, and then added craft to his game. So that's a nice profile to have. Again, bigger receivers. I'm a fan. Like I said, we all have our biases. That's mine. I like the big receivers because
I think
just help you. Again, I mentioned throwing open, but there's also a phrase that no long running play happens without a wide receiver block.
Yes,
they're better blockers. So you want to run a screen pass, you want to run a crossing route, you want to run a naked bootleg, whatever you want to run. The receiver, if he can lock up his guy, even go after a safety, they're just more beneficial to the overall offense as opposed to 190-pound guy, 185-pound guy.
Yeah, my bias for wide receivers is speed. If I can get 4 guys out there that can run blistering speed where teams have to play 2 safeties deep and get guys out of the box where it's easier to throw instead of outside the hash marks, I'm doing that all day, and then I'm slamming the tight end. That's always what I did in NCAA football. I get the fastest guys at wide receiver and then a monster tight end, run 5 wide spread, and just the tight end would have like 20 targets a game. But that's also because I was running with Iowa, and they always had good tight ends. US Dave, would be nice to see dash humility with a new ACL for Sutton. Dave, I don't know where this comment's coming from, because Sutton to me seems like a really articulate, intelligent guy who does not fit the diva profile, which your comment there would suggest. And we got Jeremy also saying Sutton is not a diva. He's exactly what you want personality-wise in a receiver. Yeah, I feel like Sutton's one of those guys where you see him more than you hear from him. And when you hear from him, it's pretty much well thought of. And I don't want to say like through the PR megaphone, but like he's not out there like giving the TO crazy interviews, doing the crunches in the driveway with the media there. So that's not really his game. But I mean, honestly, I think it'd be a little bit more fun if Sutton was a little bit more of a trash talker. He just goes out there and does his business. But we'll see. We got Shane Daniels coming in over on YouTube with the $5 super. Also, guys, call to action. The Facebook users, it was 10 likes, and then I said that. Now we're up to 21. So nice. Appreciate everyone clicking the thumbs up there. Man, that was more than doubled. Good job, guys. If you haven't liked yet, go ahead. But Shane Daniels coming over on YouTube with the $5 super. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is coming to Denver. With that being said, if our quarterback, whoever that is a 12th to 16 ranked quarterback, what is your win-loss prediction? Well, I think first off, Scott, what does a 12th to 16th ranked quarterback look like in your eyes? And can you give me some examples for that level of play in the current NFL.
Ooh, I'd have to look up some numbers, but for me, 250 yards a game, 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. That should be about average, right? So
I'd say so. Yeah.
In my mind, that's what I'm looking at. Let me see. Let me pull up QB stats from the NFL, and we'll see exactly what it was.
And I'm looking it up as well. I would love
see what you think. But for me, 250 yards a game, about average. 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, about average. If you get that, we're expecting that. Then what did we say last week? We both had the same record, I think. I may even had you by 1. What I say, 11-6 last week was my prediction.
Yeah, no, that was it. And I'm pulling up here the image here, just kind of where Locke ranked. And I like my advanced stats. I'm sorry, guys, I'm a nerd. But we have a CPOE on the X-axis here with the EPA per play on the Y-axis. And obviously Aaron Rodgers, MVP season last year up here in the top right. Drew Lock struggled last year. One of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL according to these metrics, along with Carson Wentz and Sam Darnold. He did improve down the stretch. It's worth noting, but you have to take the whole sample then. So you're looking for quarterbacks kind of in this range last year for the 12th to 16th ranked, obviously. So there's Teddy Bridgewater. He, according to these metrics, did pretty well. Baker Mayfield level, Matt Stafford, Mitch Trubisky, Joe Burrow. You really just you want to have guys above this the X-axis red line here, that 0.05 EPA per play, and if possible in the above 1 CPOE. So that top right quadrant, not easy to get in. And honestly, with the Broncos defense as good as it is and the offensive weapons that they have, as long as you're not in this bottom left quadrant, you have a chance. So even if that's, Jared Goff over here, Mitch Trubisky, Ben Roethlisberger, Cam Newton, borderline, Andy Dalton even. I mean, heck, you can't be down there. So if you have the Broncos quarterback in that range, I think you have a chance to win 9 to 10 games. But it's a big thing to get Locke to improve the CPOE, something that he's been terrible at in college and the NFL. That's completion percentage over expected, which uses next-gen stats to calculate, which is pretty awesome. But turnovers, man. Turnovers. You've heard us said it on here 100 times. He's got to play. He's got to protect the football, and I hope that doesn't mean he loses. Go ahead.
Number 16 in yards last year was Ben Roethlisberger, 253.5 yards per game.
Yeah,
and his touchdowns were good, 33 to 10, so a little bit higher. Jared Goff was 263, 20 to 13. Kyler Murray was 26 to 12. So again, I think you got to have at least a 2-to-1 touchdown interception ratio to be in that conversation.
Yeah, I know we got US Dave coming back in here. You guys would know, but didn't he and Sanders have words? Well, things can get a little heated in a training camp battle. That was a couple years ago, but if you're talking about guys with personality questions, as far as Cortland Sutton versus Emmanuel Sanders, I think you're barking up the wrong tree between those two. It's Emmanuel Sanders. He did pretty well on the social media side of things, but wasn't always the easiest person to work with. You're talking about the diva wide receiver, and there were some not always the nicest to the media, and just in general. But I mean, he was a good player, and he didn't get in legal trouble that I'm aware of. So, here we are. But I think that if anybody that you want to kind of point at as far as having some concerns, it's Emmanuel Sanders. But he's gone now. It is what it is. And we got Peter coming in here. How good would this Broncos team, let's say if you had Matt Ryan as the quarterback, Carr 12 to 6. Those are both guys that are borderline, I would say, like 8 to 14, not 12 to 16.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, the rating last year, and we're just looking at rating now. What rating is a team-based statistic, as far as I'm concerned. Not necessarily you put Aaron Rodgers on the Falcons, he doesn't have an MVP season. So it's a team-based. So when you're talking about 10 to 12, do I think that Matt Ryan is a 12 to 16 quarterback? I think he's probably at the upper half of that. I still think he's a top 10 type of guy. I don't see any reason why you're talking 12-5 possibly with Matt Ryan and the Denver Broncos. He's still a plus quarterback, especially if you can protect him. If you give him any kind of time at all, he'll kill you. And he's more mobile than people think. If he's got a problem, it's he holds onto the ball a little bit too long, takes a little too many sacks. But he's, you look at his numbers when he's good, the Falcons have been good. When he's been okay, it's usually because he's gotten sacked like 158 times in like the last 3 seasons. It's something outrageous.
That is, yeah. I mean, when you have an older quarterback, you really need to stock up on that offensive line.
His birthday was yesterday. He just turned 36 years old, so I can stop saying 36-year-old when the season starts. Now he's 36. Looking at the efficiency ratings, though, and I said 2-1 to be in that range. It's actually closer to 3-1.
I would say 2.5 to 1.
Yeah. So, if you're for the starters, Kyler Murray was 18 and he was 26-12. That's a little bit better than 2-1. Matthew Stafford was 26-10. He's at 14. Justin Herbert was 31-10, touchdown to interception ratio. So to be in that range, you're talking, you need to be closer to 3-1, and Drew Lock was right at 1-1. That's not good enough. But again, to me, that's a team stat. So we'll see. Well, the quarterback rating to me is a team stat until it's not, and then you got to make a change.
Yep. So we'll see what happens with Drew Lock. I am personally concerned. I thought that coming into the NFL that he was a little bit too aggressive with the football, sometimes a little bit too much of a gunslinger, not thinking as much as he would, especially out of structure, kind of lose his damn head out there. But he came in 2 years ago, that 5-game sample size that he played. And while he was protecting the football, his yards per attempt were minuscule, terrible. I mean, we'll just call it as it was dump off city, which is fine. But, and it's going to be really annoying coming back here. I could see it happening. 6 months from now, talking about Drew Lock starting quarterback, he's protecting the football, but he's bottom in the NFL in yards per attempt. And there really is this fine equilibrium between being aggressive and pushing the ball downfield, being a hunter, and protecting the football. You got to have a guy who can do both. You can't lean one way either direction, because otherwise you have this milquetoast offense that isn't creating explosive pass plays, which you have to do in today's NFL. Or you have a guy who's just turning the ball away, putting your defense in harm's way, limiting possessions that can result in points. So hopefully there's a lot of quarterbacks who kind of fluctuate back and forth, and the good ones can be aggressive with the football, pushing it down the field while also protecting it. So right now the issue isn't Bach last year, yards per attempt, super high. I mean, he was just chucking it down the field. The year before that, minuscule yards per attempt. Got to find that balance there, but also while protecting the football. We'll see. It's easy to say, hard to do.
Yeah, taking care of the ball doesn't do you any good if you're 3 and out.
Yeah. Yep.
So I agree with you. You still have to be able to take chances. And I'm a big fan of that, the yards per attempt. And, not to keep bringing him up, but we're probably gonna a lot is the Justin Fields thing. He threw like 25% of the screen passes than the other 3 quarterbacks that were in his conversation. Screen passes last year, they were in the 90s, and he was down at 25. I'm like, he's still throwing 70%, and he's only threw 25 screens compared to these guys throwing 90. So, and to me, that was one of the things that made him as impressive. He's not just accurate; he's accurate downfield. That's what it's going to take for sure.
Yep. And Diamond Rattler saying, I've been drinking all night, Nick. My pops passed away a couple months ago. Damn, I'm kind of buzzed. Well, be careful. Don't drive. And I'm sorry to hear about your old man. Hopefully you guys were close, and hopefully you're, God, I don't know. It sucks. Death is part of life, but that doesn't help the situation at all. So thinking about you, and, if you need anything, reach out. I do think you follow me on Twitter. So we're here for you, Diamond. We got the DWI guys. Don't drink and drive, guys. Also, the Lock, expect the same the last 2 years, 5 to 6 wins max. He's not a difference maker, which is why Paton is looking for an upgrade and why he brought in Teddy. Look for Teddy to start and less trade. I do think Teddy will start, but there's obviously a chance where Drew Lock takes a year 3 jump, second year in a system, kind of getting a little bit more comfortable, actually having reps out there. And also, Drew Lock is in camp, throwing the football around. Teddy Bridgewater is not, I believe. That may be. I mean, could be a little difference maker there. But 5 and 6, I think this team is going to be better than that. Last year, they got hit with catastrophic injuries. In the last 2 seasons, the Broncos ended up having 2 of the top 3. Or the last 2 seasons, the Broncos were both times in the top 3 in strength of schedule. This year, their projected strength of schedule is like the 3rd worst in the NFL. So just because of that alone, I think this Broncos team and an improved roster, they should be better this year, even if the quarterback position doesn't improve from bottom 3, bottom 5 in the NFL.
And last week we went over the schedule. So if you didn't get to see that, I think both of us had the team 3-4, like 3-3 or 2-3 coming out, where it was a little dicey to begin with, where people are going to start panicking, people are going to start pointing fingers, people are going to start calling for heads. But around week 7 is when that schedule eases off. You get out of the AFC North and start playing more division, more home games, and then you're going to start rattling off some dubs.
Yeah. I think it's a decently easy opening start. You get a little bit of teeth later on, and the back end of the schedule is just conference or divisional game. So if the Broncos can get to the last 7 weeks still in it and actually have meaningful football at the end of the season, which they have not had for a few seasons, that would be great for me. I mean, even if they don't make the playoffs or kind of fall off, whimper out, it'll be disappointing. But what is disappointing is tuning in for a Week 14 game and your team is eliminated from the playoffs, right? Like I'm tired.
You mean you had 13 weeks of hope?
In the Vic Fangio era, they have not won a game in September, which is absolutely outstanding because the Broncos had something where they were like 50-2 in home games against the spread, just because teams are not conditioned enough to really come into that mile high era that early in the season. And the Broncos, they obviously have some losses in there, but like crazy against the spread. They just cover the Broncos at home. If they're playing at home, they're going to cover in September. So that's kind of fallen off a little bit. I'm expecting to see it more this season, especially with the easier opponents the Broncos have. But it'll be a bummer. I'm just excited for meaningful football late in the season. I'm also excited for that for the players, right? Like it's hats off to the players that have been in there and still like working hard. Obviously they're working to make their money. It's their job. It's their career. But like playing week 11, week 12, week 13, when your team is trading away assets and damn well you're not going to be playing meaningful football down the stretch, but also in the playoffs. I mean, that's got to be just draining because that's what are you competing for besides your own personal paycheck?
Yeah, guys are looking to protect themselves so they can get jobs the next year.
Yeah,
it's play it out, which is one of the things that makes promotion or relegation so much fun.
Yeah,
that's a different conversation.
Yeah,
that's a different conversation.
I would love it more in college, I think, than the NFL, but who knows? We got Derek Player coming in over on Facebook. How many running backs do we have on the roster right now? I can't name every single one off the top of my head without looking, but there are 4 guys that have had decent investments made in them. And obviously Melvin Gordon, 1-year contract, but he'll be the starter to kick off the season. As long as he holds on to the football, I think he will hold on to that starting spot. He's more of a slashing running back, where I think Javonte Williams is more of he's got a little bit more, not a one-cut ability. I don't see that as much with Javonte Williams. He's more of breaking tackles in the shorter areas. But obviously then Javonte Williams, Royce Freeman, who's very much on the chopping block, and Mike Boone, who the Broncos paid decent money for, a really good athlete and a guy who's going to bring in some serious special teams ability in the very least. So I think Levante Bellamy is still there off the top of my head. I don't know how much of a chance he has to make this team, but you never say never, man, especially the running back positions. The UDFA guys can come out of here.
And then Demaria Crockett is the other one I see on the list. So again, I don't on a 53-man roster, you're not going to carry 6 guys.
Yeah.
Don't expect all those guys to be there for sure. So who's going to be there? Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams, and then what do you carry? Three running backs? Who's
probably
third?
I think it would be Mike Boone. They paid him good money to come in, and he's a special teams ace.
And then practice squads or whatever you're calling them these days, off-site practice people. But yeah, you're usually only going to carry 3 on an everyday roster.
Yeah, for sure. And Nathan Brown saying the Giants will shut down Locke easily, 0-1. Well, I mean, you never say never, right? It's Broncos got a good defense. They can keep the game close, and I think those are 2 evenly matched teams, kind of in a similar area. Invested heavily in the defense this year, kind of an unknown third-year quarterback. They've surrounded them with talent. At this point, it's put up or shut up time. If the QB can't get it done, then good luck at your next position because you're gone. This is the year. If you're not going to get it now, you're done with the team that you're on.
So, Nick, do we want to talk at all about the players that did come to the workouts or that didn't?
Sure, yeah.
Go Patrick Surtain kind of made news as showing up, and for me, seems like a no-brainer that rookies show up. I mean, you haven't signed your contract. You're not part of a union. You're behind everybody else anyway. You want to get in as much work as you possibly can to, one, either make the team, or two, justify your status. And, you're protected there. Even if you haven't signed your contract, you're protected there. So I don't think anybody should have been surprised that Patrick Surtain was there, right?
No, I'm happy to see the Broncos signing these guys, bringing them in. And again, with Surtain, I wish I could be a fly on the wall in there, or like watching camp, just seeing all the positions he's getting right now, because where's he going to line up? Like, I'm really curious with how heavily the Broncos invested in this secondary. What spot is him? Because he needs to find playing time. Is he going to be a niche piece? Is he going to be a full-time boundary cornerback? Is he going to be kind of a big safety, a dime backer type that can kind of do some stuff? I really don't know.
But how often are you in nickel packages?
A lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot. So you can move guys around. There's going to be, just because he's not one of the first, I'm not even saying he's not going to be one of the first two, but even if he isn't one of the first two, he should still be on the field for 50% of the snaps. If he's in that, if he works his way into that rotation, which we fully expect him to do.
Yeah, no, I am. That's a good point. I am curious though. Can you just for my sake, obviously you do a lot of draft stuff, going back, and you probably watched a lot of Minkah Fitzpatrick. Obviously, they didn't play the exact same positions. Minkah did play a lot of boundary cornerback, I think, his sophomore season at Alabama, then transitioned to more of a safety role. What are the big differences and similarities between Minkah and Surtain? Because the Broncos were very interested in Minkah when he was became available. They didn't give up the first-round pick like the Steelers did to acquire him. But I'm curious if you could see Surtain playing some Minkah role.
I watched Minkah more when he was coming out of high school and stuff, and he was a little bit more of a fluid athlete type where he could play, but wasn't as physical. Now, that may have changed in college, but I never thought of Fitzpatrick as a big hitter. I always thought of him as I hate the phrase athlete, but, when you've got a guy that's playing wide receiver and defensive back, they're not quite as crazy physical as the guys that are just playing defense. They protect themselves a little bit, and they do this kind of thing. So I think that he maybe had a little more flexibility, but wasn't necessarily as physical as Surtain. And I like defenders that can defend. Deion Sanders notwithstanding, there's not a lot of Deons out there. I like the Rod Woodson types who are going to go up there and hit you too. Yeah.
No, that's I'm just curious. I really think they could be pretty flexible with his usage in this defense. It really comes down to just how much mentally can they put on his plate. But he sounds like a guy who is extremely intelligent. I love the anecdote where Nick Saban would be like, "Here's the play. What's the best coverage to use?" And he'd just rattle it off immediately. And you need those guys with those brains to run this defense.
We mentioned, Kelly Kleine as being raised in the NFL environment. Well, this guy was born into one.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said for that. You see so many and it's not just the genetics, that are, it helps, but, being around that and growing up in that environment where it's never too big, the situation's never too big, you're just used to it. And there's a mental aspect of the game where you're confident and you believe in yourself. You expect to be there. I'm like, yeah, this is where I belong. And that's a big part of it, especially as a rookie. He's never going to question whether he belongs around these folks or not. So, you can find a spot for him. 6'2", 200 plus, physical, fast, good coverage. Find a spot for him. He'll see plenty of time.
And a lot of the best defense in general is a extremely volatile unit on the football field. It's not as consistent season to season as the offense is. Granted, because the offense's consistency is typically tied to a good quarterback. If you have a good quarterback, guess what? Your offense is going to be good year to year. But defense, that's not the case. But the ones that have had some staying power are the ones that have invested heavily in the secondary. So I think that's it. The Broncos obviously have done that this year. We'll see how much of a difference it makes this season. But I do think that investing so heavily in the secondary, with the depth that they're going to have there, the quantity and the quality in that back seven, or the defensive back specifically, this defense does have a chance to be not only good in 2021, but the next few seasons as well.
Well, and Richard from Germany had a question earlier a few minutes ago. It was about 10:30. He said, what about Denver playing 5 or 6 DBs on the field? Exactly. Yes. Going back to this conversation, when he was saying Yes, it's going to happen. It's nickel and dime. And that's not just talking about dinking and dunking down the field. Those are the packages, and they're a lot. The nickel package is almost a base defense these days, a 5 DB set. And then you're going to 6. And if you can, with Bradley Chubb on there, if you can get pressure on your front with your front 4, you're going to be in dime a ton. You're going to be in 6 a lot because, you don't need another pass rusher. You don't need to send 5 guys to get pressure in definite passing situations. So thanks for the question, Richard, and wanted to circle back to that one for sure. But yeah, you're going to see 5 and 6 DBs is pretty standard in today's NFL. It's turning into we've said before, every rule change that's happened in the last 10 years has been to increase passing. That's why we don't see the running backs are devalued, and not just so much because they're not as important anymore physically. It's because the rules have changed so much to encourage the passing game, which is why a quarterback's so important.
Yeah, no, you're very right. And I see some comments in here about Locke changing his footwork to be more accurate this season. And while that's a great talking point, I'm not in there. And also I don't have the level of knowledge about footwork specifics that those coaches do, or a lot of coaches do. So I won't speak to that too much, but it's one of those things where I'm a skeptic at heart. It's probably the scientist in me where I want something to be proven before I buy in. I don't lead by just hope or faith. It's just not my style. So Locke, it's been a talking point for years now. Improving the footwork, the base mechanics, been an issue. Stop falling off your back foot, step up into pressure, et cetera, step up into the open space in the pocket. Hasn't seen it, hasn't done it. It's been a talking point. I'm putting this in the offseason anecdotes where it's great to hear. I'll buy it when I see it.
Yeah, the Missouri guy in us again. We said before, show me, just show me. When we're watching free agents, we're watching recruits, we're watching stuff. It's like I don't listen to anything anybody says. Watch what they do, and that's what happens when you're talking about scouting too. I mean, what are you going to say? No, his footwork has gotten worse in the offseason. Yeah, he's been sitting there eating donuts. No, everybody's working, everybody's improving. What happens when one of the defensive ends is bearing down on you? You revert to norm typically. Now you can improve your agility and you can improve all that stuff, but improving release and your footwork in the pocket and all that kind of stuff, it's tough. But this is a guy. He was super tall and super thin. So as he was coming through the ages. So you're looking as he grows up, as he physically matures, which in my opinion doesn't finish until you're about 25, 26 years old. Mm-hmm. Then you're done with all that stuff. Then I don't want to say you got to wait that long, but it can get better. But again, let's see it. Let's see it.
And it's one of those things, it's an issue with him in the playbook as well, where this has been even, some of the most ardent supporters in the building or in the media side have said that Locke has sometimes an issue taking things from the classroom or the practice field to live bullets. And that's a concern. I mean, whether it be from executing the scheme properly, going through the proper reads, rather in the classroom setting on the whiteboard versus like when you have to make that decision when the bullets are flying. The same goes for footwork. Once the reps are live, does everything kind of fall back and he just goes back, slides, regresses into his former mechanics because that's what's comfortable for him. That's what he's learned. So I don't know. It would be great if he cleaned his footworks and his mechanics. We've seen it before. I mean, we saw Josh Allen clean his mechanics as well, and that led into a jump in accuracy this past season. But a lot of times these things, players say, I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm on a full vegan diet, blah, blah, blah. Second year in the scheme. I mean, there's so many of these anecdotes or tropes for the offseason every year, and a lot of times they don't end up making much of a difference. So we'll see. I'm hopeful. That would be great for the Broncos if Locke cleans his footwork, if the second year in the scheme helps him. But until then, I'm going to have to go based on the film and the data that we've accumulated so far. And that would say that Locke improving to the extent that this team needs him to be would be an outlier. So hope for the best, but that's just where I see it.
And Tyler Randall, appreciate it. Just sending some love back to you. Where are you from, Tyler? We'll call it out in the chat when we see it, but can't wait to join the crew tomorrow night. Big Crew's on every night. I get my alerts on Saturday nights and Sunday nights. I'm like, geez, guys, you guys are machines.
I know.
So we're happy to be here, Broncos for breakfast for sure.
Yeah, I think Tyler will be joining the Huddle Up pod for some off-season stuff where we're going to be bringing on a bunch of our super fans, the guys who are contributing often. So I'll make sure to check out for that as well, Tyler. It'll be great to see you on there and put a voice.
That's what he was talking about. Sorry, I didn't understand that. I'm not always watching the huddle up. I like my Broncos for breakfast.
Yeah, nope. That's he'll be on tomorrow. I'm assuming here, so we'll see. And Charlie coming in here says Broncos brass are a lot like politicians. They say a lot and it means nothing. I mean, it's not just the Broncos. That's just the NFL in general. You guys have to understand that the media is used to portray a narrative. It's just how it is, especially the teams who have or media who has direct access to the teams. And if you don't play ball or you leak something you're not supposed to, or you paint a negative image, guess what? You're going to lose access. They're going to say, sorry, you're not interviewing this player. They'll give you the cold shoulder. So it really is a pay to play kind of situation here. And that's why you always want to come at things where, people are getting, or media are getting their sources directly from teams with a grain of salt, because the team has some of the best PR people in the world in doing the industry. All these talking points get filtered through them, and it goes from there. So not that the general media, the ones who are inside the building, don't provide good analysis, but there's always going to be that positive spin, the lip service that'll have to go through, because otherwise you lose access and then, you're done. Don't bite the hand that feeds you.
Mm-hmm. And Tyler's from Oklahoma. You probably already knew that. Now I will. And Jason says in here, he says that's called coach speak. And not only that, what I say is coaches lie so much, and you can just say people in power in general, when they're talking publicly, that they don't even call it lying. They call it coach speak.
Mm-hmm.
It's oh yeah, well, this is going to be a tough. You watch college coaches, Jesus, it's going to be a tough battle. They're a good team. We're going to have to be on our toes. Blah blah blah. You're going to beat them 55-0. But they don't go out and say that. So, he's really improving there. You don't want a guy to throw him under the bus either. So they're protecting him. So that's why you can't. You use your eyes and pay attention to what actually happens, because you're not going to get the whole story, even half the story, even the right story, by what people say publicly, because that's sanitized for public consumption. They'll say, "Yeah, we really like this guy," and they'll waive him tomorrow. They're just protecting. There's no reason to toss guys under the buses. They're professionals. They're human beings too. So just watch. And for us, we want to be tough but fair. We'll tell you what we think, tell you what we see. We're wrong, we'll say we're wrong, and then we'll come back and see how we do. Yep,
that's the difference from being in the facility, working directly with them, versus out here, where you can be a little bit more of an analyst. We got Big E Bronco coming in here with a interesting question. I'm going to kick this one to you, Scott. I hate to break people's hearts. Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock are basically the same guy, but Drew's got the better arm. I don't agree with this, but I would be curious to hear what you have to say on this, Scott.
For me, Bridgewater's got more of that it factor. And we talk about the intangibles. Teddy's always been calmer under pressure, and always been just a guy. I called him a Pied Piper when he was coming out of Miami. And I mean Miami Northwestern coming up, and what he did at Louisville, the things that he did there, he's been underestimated as a quarterback pretty much his whole life. And he keeps succeeding. Goes to Minnesota, big success there before he gets hurt. So he's just, I hate this, just generalize it like this, but the guy's a winner. He's an absolute winner. And he's a guy that teammates, they not flock in the right word to, but they rally around, and he's charismatic, and he believes in himself, and he inspires others. And, I don't necessarily think you can say all those things about Drew Lock. So it's all those intangibles that you can't measure that Teddy Bridgewater has in spades. Now, is he going to be healthy enough? It just kills me that how, his career was almost ended, that he's come back from that as a testament to who he is. And, like I said, I'm a Teddy Bridgewater fan. I'll root for him forever. He's had success to back it up. And I hope he continues to have success with the Broncos. And if he doesn't, he'll make Drew Lock better. If it's not Teddy Bridgewater, then Drew Lock got better, because nobody's being handed anything here. Someone's going to have to earn it. Teddy Bridgewater is a good quarterback. So if it's not him, then Drew Lock has improved. That's a good thing.
Yep, I said it when it happened. Teddy Bridgewater raised the floor of the room. And coming in here from, who was it? Nathan here, saying wasn't Teddy in Shermer's system? He was, although Shermer never really got to work with Teddy actual in games. It was like Shermer was brought on, and then Teddy went down with that catastrophic leg injury. So, it's either way. Teddy was brought in, and my understanding is it was at the heavy-handed request from the coaching staff to bring in another quarterback outside of just Drew Lock, because this coaching staff wants to execute their scheme, and obviously they had to dial it back last year with Drew Lock, and also the coaching staff from Vic Fangio to Shermer kind of over the turnovers thing. And that doesn't only go for Drew Lock, that also goes for Melvin Gordon as well. If Lock/Gordon are having issues with turnovers, guess what? They're grabbing some bench. Have a seat, buddy. You're not playing anymore. So we'll see what happens there. We got Big E coming in further to clarify his comment here. Teddy's completion percentage is misleading when he's under pressure. He just dipped it down. Whoever is closest, Bruins looking to mate that big play and go downfield. Okay, I'm not sure what he means by the Bruins. Obviously, some autocorrect there, but I think he meant Lock. But I don't know. Taking the check down isn't always the worst option, though, right? Like if you can take the check down and make a no-win play instead of an incompletion 3 or 4 yards, that's great. And if you can get it to this Broncos team, they got playmakers out of the backfield. Melvin Gordon, good receiver, actually. Javonte Williams still improving there, but if he gets the ball in the open field and he's against a defensive back, good luck bringing him down. KJ Hamler, explosive. Jerry Jeudy, one of the best guys at getting open quickly in the NFL. So the checkdowns aren't always a winning play, but they're hardly ever a losing play. So if Bridgewater can do that, that's a win. That's going to keep this offense moving.
Yeah, it beats taking a sack or an interception.
Yeah.
Or incomplete, 4 or 5 yards at a time. That's okay. That's okay. As long as you're not just looking down there. Now, if you're looking downfield, covered, check down. Well, that's what he's taught. You're supposed to do that instead of covered, scramble, sack, which, I've seen a ton of. Then that's bad, or worse, covered, throw it anyway. It's interception. Interception, and then it's a real problem. So, checkdowns aren't always bad.
Yeah, Lock has some issues, but one of the biggest ones, and we talked about this a little bit, was he is just so bad. If his primary read isn't there, then it's going to be a bad time. Like he's either going to panic and escape the pocket and throw it into a spot he shouldn't, or he's going to force it to that first read. But it's just like understanding that where his first read is, what the coverage is saying, and what based on what the coverage he reads is where to go with the football after that. So you got to be. It's a fine line, but being smart with the football, getting it in there, and knowing where to go with it. It's quarterback's a tough position, but there's a lot of nuance to it. But guys, I think that's going to do it for us today. I need to go get another pot of coffee going because today is going to be a long day of work. Catching up from yesterday as well. But we appreciate everyone who joined in. We want to say hello to everybody again and give a shout out to everybody who dropped a super chat for us because, man, we wouldn't be able to do these shows unless you guys were showing us the love like that. So we really do appreciate that. We got Richard Bisencoder. God, I hope I pronounced that right. Richard didn't let me know if I didn't give me the pronunciation there. So Richard, thank you to you. Kyle Wielden with a $10 super. Also, thank you very much. Muhammad coming in with the super sticker. Shane Daniels, thank you very much today. Tyler Randall and Peter Middleton too, giving you guys a shout out as well. So that's going to do it today for Broncos for Breakfast. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. You can find us on Twitter at Nick Kendell MHH and at Scott Kennedy. Also, guys, find us at Mile High Huddle, the mothership, so to speak. Go to Facebook, follow our Facebook page at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. Outside of supers, the most important thing you guys can do to help us, subscribe, like, and share. Also over on Facebook, please click those thumbs up. We appreciate everyone for coming in here. We got Peter saying, well done, Nick, for doing this with Scott today. I am tired, but I went to college. I went to grad school. I'm used to functioning, showing up, and putting on that face after not getting enough sleep, and not always because of being up studying. Maybe some other stuff going on at night on a school night that shouldn't be doing. But it is what it is. College is fun. But we appreciate everyone. Hit that like on the way out. And Scott, what do you got the rest of the day before we get out of here? Just a little, let everybody know.
Well, Chelsea's playing Leicester again today, and they got to win 2 games in a row to close out their season the way they want to. So there's a big one today at 3:15. This one's a big one at 3:15 Eastern time. So That's what I'm looking forward to this afternoon.
Well, awesome. That would probably be a heck of a lot of fun. I will be working late into the night today to make up for yesterday. Hopefully I can work enough hours to make up for that day so I can have more vacation time to do more hiking and backpacking later on. But hope you guys enjoyed it. I will be back tonight, long Tuesday, to join you guys for building the Broncos. And we love you all. Stay safe. Make sure you guys go subscribe to Scott's channel as well. I'm going to post it in the comment section here. If you hold on for 1 second, folks. Right here. Make sure you guys go click on it and go check out what he's got going on. Scott, it's always fun. Thank you for doing this with me this morning. Thank you for, hopefully I had enough energy. I smacked myself in the face a little bit, put a fork in an outlet to get myself going.
It's great having this community because it helps. I say doing talk radio is the easiest thing in the world when people are calling in. So what do you all want to talk about? We'll certainly hit it, and having those supers come in makes it real easy to pick out topics.
Yes, absolutely. And even you come into these things like, oh man, we got not that much has happened football wise. What are we going to talk about? You guys bringing in the content. There's plenty to talk about. Just a couple dinguses up here having fun talking football. So appreciate it, Scott. Appreciate everyone in the comments. Thank you for everybody who liked, subscribed, shared, liked on Facebook, super chatted. I'll see you guys tonight. And we'll see you again Thursday morning, 8 o'clock Mountain Time for another episode of Broncos for Breakfast. Y'all stay safe. Go Broncos.